Ms. Wang posted a message titled,
"Mayday. What's going on here? We've been bewitched. Please, someone help us."
sharing the story of what happened to her in the park and the strange condition of the children when they returned home. Back on May 6, 2012, around 4 p.m., Ms. Wang, her sister and mother, with their 3 children. They went to a park near the 3rd Ring Road in Beijing to play. The youngest child was less than a year old. The eldest had just started elementary school, just as Ms. Wang and her family were about to sit down around a stone table. Suddenly 2 men came out from the side. These people were dressed in traditional Chinese clothes. A man and a woman sat down opposite Ms. Wang. At first they were talking to each other. They didn't know what to say. Ms. Wang didn't care. Then the man sitting opposite Ms. Wang's mother took out a couple of 2-inch-high triangular objects, and the woman lit them up and put them on a green square of paper, placed them in the shape of a triangle towards Ms. Wang. On the green paper there were a lot of unintelligible symbols and patterns printed on the green paper. These people were chanting unintelligible words and ringing a bell and waved a metal bar at Ms. Wang. Ms. Wang is sure that they were clearly waving it at her people. What are these people doing? After that, these 2 weirdos took out 2 pieces of paper with symbols on it. They lit them on the stone table. The ashes of the paper were like being controlled by the wind. It was like the wind was being manipulated by something. At this point, Ms. Wang's mother probably realized something was wrong. She took Ms. Wang's youngest son and left. The strange thing is, the man also flew the metal bar into the place where the mother and the others were walking away. It's obvious that he's targeting seeing this. The strange man said a few words, suddenly said to the people with him, "Run! Don't look back and left in a hurry!" Inevitably, Miss Wang became deeply suspicious and fearful, but they couldn't tell what they felt uncomfortable about. The older children were nervous and slow. The 2 younger children were crying and crying. They were extremely uneasy. Ms. Wang thought maybe she's under some kind of spell or something bad, so she came to the forum to hear everyone's opinion to determine whether the problem is serious. Some people think that maybe it's just a psychological suggestion. Don't pay attention to these scammers. Others say it's not evil at all. We should go up to them and slap them in the face. These people are just trying to cheat people out of their money. And Ms. Wang replied she and her sister are both teachers.
Originally, I didn't believe in these things, but on the day we got home, the 3 of us started to feel sick all over. I can't tell you exactly what it was. They just didn't feel well. They're usually very good, but they've been crying and fussing ever since they got home. They're very restless.
And at night, when she's finally put to sleep, whenever there's the slightest movement in the house, I'd wake up and start crying. It's so annoying that adults can't leave the house because of the child's incessant crying. Ms. Wang was afraid that the child was sick. She took them to the hospital for a checkup, but except for a slight anemia, everything else was okay. The children were never anemic before. Now they're anemic and crying after posting by netizens. There are a lot of people thought, is Ms. Wang being paranoid, or did Ms. Wang encounter something that science can't explain? The netizens had a lot to say. There are even many solutions. Some suggested taking a bath with pomelo leaves. Some suggest putting a branch of mahogany in the house. Hang a mirror on the door and tie a red rope around your arm. Some people even mentioned a spirit-attracting child. What's a spirit-attracting child? Ancient Chinese say that when a prince or a general passes away, they use children to accompany them to the grave. Could make the owner of the tomb immortal after death, so after the boy and girl have been enchanted, could guard the tomb for the owner. The netizens then speculated the 2 strangers in the park. Could they be using similar to achieve some ulterior motives? In order to verify the speculation, some netizens left comments, suggested Miss Wang to look at the palms of children's hands. Boys, look at the left hand. For girls, look at the right hand. Ms. Wang looked at the boy's left hand. She found that the boy's left hand was bruised. Then it turned black, and his fever wouldn't go down. He went to the hospital again, but it didn't help. Then at 1 a.m., the boy's fever suddenly went down. He stopped crying. He was in better spirits. But Ms. Wang still felt something was wrong. There was still a sense of unease in her heart. 10 days after the incident, Miss Wang admits that the incident is over. It's like a dream from the beginning until now. I've been wondering how come I meet those weird things that happen. No one can predict what will happen tomorrow. Many things are not what we think they are. During this period, I have felt the warmth brought by kind-hearted people. I have also been suspected of making up stories. No matter what, I've been trying to put an end to this experience. Ms. Wang said that she finally found someone who is a good person. Ms. Wang calls him Master for now. He told Ms. Wang to prepare an iron pot in advance, a new plate and fruits for the offering. Next morning, the sky was still drizzling. Master and his driver drove to Ms. Wang's house. When Ms. Wang saw the Master, I don't know why, but it was as if she had seen a loved one. Tears streamed down her face. After sitting down at Ms. Wang's house, the Master unexpectedly slapped Ms. Wang on her forehead. The fatigue and darkness disappeared immediately. She immediately woke up and felt refreshed and didn't rest. The Master started to prepare. Ms. Wang put the iron pot she'd bought the day before on the balcony. He used a small piece of wood that he had brought with him and set up a small wooden shelf, and put a few drops of cooking oil on it. The Master set up the rack and then took a piece of dough and he made a flat human figure on a plate, lying flat on the plate, and the Master hung a Tibetan Thangka painting in the living room. In front of it, there were many small copper lamps and copper bowls filled with water and incense. The smell was very nice. The room has a different feel to it.
I walked around the room while chanting. I smoked every corner of the room. After these preparations, I sat down in front of an iron pot on the small balcony and started chanting 10 minutes later.
Mr. Driver set fire to the millet stand in the iron pot. The Master was chanting while reciting the sutra. The Master took the black sesame seeds and other things. Mr. Driver gave her black sesame seeds and other things. She threw them into the fire. Then she took out another thing. It was like a pyramid with the top down. There's a handle on all three sides at the top of the handle. There's also a horrible face of a god on top of the handle. It's made of copper. This is what was used to cut the face in the plate, and cut it into pieces, stabbed Driver in the body while stabbing and chanting. At that moment, something strange happened. There was a muffled sound in the kitchen. There was a loud whistling sound. At that time, except for my mother-in-law who was watching the baby, Ms. Wang and the others were watching. They were all startled. Ms. Wang's husband ran over to see. Nothing happened. Everything was fine. The Master was calm. He asked the driver to bring a bag of millet and grabbed it and threw it into the fire. When the millet hit the fire, it started to crack. Ms. Wang was so scared that she dodged back. The strangest thing is that the flavor is not easy to describe. At first it was like popcorn, but later on it smelled like a dead man's body was being burned. Ms. Wang originally thought it was an illusion. But then she asked her husband, and they all smelled it too. The Master then burned the remaining pieces. He told Ms. Wang to wait until the ashes had cooled down, to wait for the ashes to cool down before moving. She had to spread the ash where no one else could step on it. During the break, teacher used the leftover dough to make another mannequin, and a few pyramids about 20 centimeters high, colored them with a red powder. Then Master Ask Ms. Wang went into the room. She lit a big ghee candle above the baby's bed. By the baby's bedside, the Master recited a very thick chant. After reciting for about 30 minutes, Ms. Wang asked her husband to take the red pyramids and throw them in the northeast direction. This is the direction of the incident in the park. Miss Wang didn't tell the Master before, but how he know it? Then the Master put the little puppets and some dough balls and candies on a plate. Ms. Wang's husband took them downstairs and put them at the intersection outside the neighborhood gate. It's strange that the baby didn't cry or fuss during this time. He told Ms. Wang to keep an eye on the candles. Don't let it go out, otherwise it's all for naught. Don't let the baby out of the room until the candle burns out, and don't open the curtains to see the light of day. Waited until candles extinguished. In the early hours of the morning, the boy sat up by itself. He called for his mommy to hug him. Ms. Wang was relieved because the candle was still burning, so she waited until the candle was out after asking the teacher to confirm before updating her post to tell the netizens that she was safe. Before leaving, The master put a yellow silk hatha on the boy's body. He also took off her own amulet and put it on the boy. Ms. Wang did ask the master if there was a charge. The master told Ms. Wang, just like medical education, once it's manipulated by capital, that's the end of it.